I used to think high school bullies only existed in teen dramas, until I met Riley Carter. She was beautiful in the most infuriating way possible. Sharp green eyes that saw too much, a smirk that promised trouble, and the kind of confidence that made everyone around her shrink a little. Everyone except me. She didn't like me from the first day of senior year. Maybe because I was quiet, bookish, or too easy to tease. She'd knock my books down accidentally, whisper sarcastic comments when I spoke up in class, and make sure I felt her presence even when she wasn't talking. Riley was chaos wrapped in a leather jacket, and I was her favorite target. But what no one knew, what I wouldn't even admit to myself, was that part of me noticed her. Every time she leaned too close to mock me, every time her perfume lingered on my jacket after a hallway shove, I felt something confusing twist in my stomach. I hated her. But I also couldn't ignore her. Everything changed the night of the graduation party. I hadn't even planned to go, but my best friend dragged me along, claiming we needed to celebrate survival. The music was loud, the air smelled like cheap beer and perfume, and everyone seemed a little freer now that high school was over. That's when I saw her, Riley, leaning against the kitchen counter, drink in hand, eyes half-lidded, smirk in place. But when our eyes met across the room, something felt different. There wasn't mockery in her gaze this time. It was interest. I tried to ignore her. I really did. But she didn't ignore me. She walked straight over, brushing her hair back in that lazy, confident way of hers. Well. Didn't expect you here, bookworm, she teased, her voice soft but edged. Didn't expect you sober, I shot back, surprising even myself. She laughed, a low, genuine laugh, and for the first time I saw something real behind her usual armor. The music got louder, and people began dancing. Riley tilted her head toward the crowd. Dance with me? I should have said no. I should have walked away. But something in me, maybe rebellion, maybe curiosity, said yes. When her hand found mine and she pulled me closer, every memory of her cruelty blurred. Her body was warm, her breath close to my ear, and the air between us crackled like static. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the shy, quiet girl she mocked. I felt seen. I didn't know it then, but that dance would change everything. The music was pounding through the floor, lights flashing like we were inside someone's heartbeat. Riley's hand lingered on my waist longer than it needed to. Her breath brushed against my neck as she leaned in to whisper, "Didn't know you could dance, bookworm." I turned my face just enough to meet her eyes. "Didn't know you cared to notice." Something flickered in her expression, surprise, maybe even admiration. For once, there wasn't a smirk on her lips. There was silence between us, heavy and alive, like we'd stumbled into something neither of us could name. The song changed, slower now. I thought about stepping away, but Riley didn't move. Her hand slid down my arm, her fingers interlacing with mine. It should have felt wrong, but instead, it felt like I was falling into something I'd been fighting for too long. Then she whispered, "Let's get out of here." I don't know why I said yes. Maybe because the alcohol had softened my walls. Maybe because I was tired of pretending I didn't want to understand her. Maybe because deep down, I wanted to see who Riley was when no one else was watching. We slipped out of the house into the cool night air. The streetlights painted her face gold, her eyes darker than usual. She looked less like the girl who used to mock me and more like someone lost, someone human. Her car was parked a few blocks away. The drive was silent, the kind of silence that hums with unspoken questions. She didn't take me home. Instead, she stopped by the lake, the same one we used to visit on school trips years ago. We sat on the hood of her car, watching the ripples shimmer under the moonlight. For a moment, everything felt still. "I wasn't always like that, you know," she said suddenly. "Like what?" I asked, though I already knew. She looked down at her hands. "Cruel. Mean. It was easier than letting people see me. I guess I took it out on you." Her honesty caught me off guard. The Riley I knew didn't apologize. The Riley I knew didn't feel. I hated you, I whispered, surprising myself. But I think I hated how much space you took up in my head even more. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something broke between us. The air was heavy with everything we'd never said. When she leaned closer, I didn't pull away. Her lips brushed mine softly, hesitantly, as if asking permission. It wasn't the kiss of an enemy or even a friend. It was a confession, quiet and trembling. I kissed her back. And for that one moment, the years of tension, anger, and confusion melted into something terrifyingly real. The world blurred. The stars spun. And all I could think was how wrong this was, and how much I didn't care. I woke to soft sunlight spilling through the blinds and a slow, unfamiliar rhythm of breathing beside me. For a few seconds, I didn't move. My head was pounding, and the room smelled faintly of perfume and something else, warm, human, intimate. Then I remembered. Riley. The lake. The kiss that had gone too far to stop. My heart raced as I turned slightly. She was lying next to me, her hair a dark halo on the pillow, her arm draped loosely over my waist like it belonged there. The same girl who'd made my life miserable for years was now sleeping peacefully beside me, her face soft, her usual sharpness gone. I should have felt angry. Ashamed. Something. But instead, I just felt quiet. Every time I blinked, flashes from the night before came back, the nervous laughter, the trembling hands, the way she'd whispered my name like it meant something. It hadn't been about revenge or power. It had felt real. Riley stirred, her fingers brushing my skin. Her voice was low and still half asleep. "You're awake." I froze, unsure what to say. "Yeah, barely." She smiled faintly, eyes still closed. "You look cute when you're nervous." And just like that, she made it awkward again. I sat up, pulling the blanket tighter around me. "We shouldn't have done that," she finished, propping herself on one elbow. "Maybe. But I don't regret it." Her honesty hit me harder than I expected. "You bullied me for years," I whispered. "You made me hate school. You humiliated me in front of everyone. And now you just—" "I know," she said quickly. "You have every right to hate me. But last night, that wasn't fake. I don't even know what to call it, but it wasn't fake." Her voice cracked a little, and I realized she wasn't pretending. There was no smirk, no playful tone. Just Riley, raw and exposed. The silence stretched. "Finally," I said, "I don't know what this means." She reached out, gently touching my wrist. "It means I messed up. But maybe I want to make it right." I looked at her hand, the same hand that once knocked my books to the floor, now trembling as it held on to me. Something deep inside me wanted to believe her. But belief felt dangerous. "Riley," I said softly, "this can't happen again." She didn't argue. She just nodded, a sad little smile tugging at her lips. "Sure. If that's what you want." But the way she said it told me she didn't mean it. And as I left her apartment that morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that something between us had just begun, something neither of us was ready to admit. I told myself that morning would be the last time I ever saw Riley Carter. I told myself it was a mistake, a one-time lapse in judgment, something to bury and forget. But forgetting Riley was like trying to forget fire once you've been burned. A week passed. Then another. I went back to my quiet routines, coffee before work, long walks home, pretending everything was fine. But everywhere I went, it felt like she was there. A song she used to hum in class. A flash of dark hair in a crowd. A green-eyed girl in my dreams. And then she was there. It was raining when I saw her again. I was leaving the bookstore where I worked when her car pulled up to the curb, window rolling down like a scene straight out of a memory. "Need a ride?" she asked, smirking, though her voice was softer this time. I hesitated, clutching my bag. "You can't just show up like this." "Why not?" she said, stepping out into the rain. "You've been ignoring me." Because we said it was a mistake. You said that, she corrected, closing the distance between us. I didn't. She looked different, not the confident bully I remembered, but someone trying to prove something to herself. Her jacket was soaked, her hair clinging to her face, but she didn't seem to care. I can't stop thinking about you, she admitted. The rain drowned her voice, but I heard every word. I don't even understand it. You're supposed to hate me. I'm supposed to move on. But I can't. I wanted to tell her to stop. To walk away. But when she stepped closer, all the anger I'd built up over years started to crumble. Riley, you hurt me, I said, my voice shaking. I know, she whispered. And if I could go back, I'd change everything. I was stupid. Scared. You were different. You always were. Her eyes searched mine, pleading, desperate. Just give me one chance, she said quietly. Not to make you forgive me, just to show you who I am when I'm not trying to be someone else. I should have said no. I should have turned around and walked away. But there was something about the way she said it, the raw sincerity in her voice, that made it impossible to resist. Fine, I said finally. One coffee. That's it. She smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't mocking. It was real. We ended up talking for hours that evening, about school, about why she acted the way she did, about the loneliness she'd hidden behind cruelty. And slowly, the person I thought I knew started to dissolve. By the time we said goodbye, something inside me had shifted. Maybe this wasn't the end of a mistake. Maybe it was the beginning of something I'd never dared to want. After that night, seeing Riley became something that felt natural. Too natural, maybe. We met for coffee again, then for a walk, then for dinner, each time telling ourselves it was just to talk, though we both knew it was more than that. With every conversation, the edges between us softened. I started to see the girl beneath the armor, the one who carried too many regrets and didn't know how to say sorry without breaking. One evening, we sat in her car overlooking the city lights. She handed me her drink, smiling a little. You ever think about how weird this is? What? I asked. This. Us. If someone told me a year ago that I'd be sitting here with you, wanting to, I'd have laughed. I laughed too, quietly. If someone told me you could actually be nice, I'd have laughed harder. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. I deserved that. Silence filled the car again, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It was full, warm, like the quiet that comes after laughter, when words aren't needed. After a while, she said softly, I used to pick on you because you made me nervous. I turned to look at her, surprised. Nervous? Why? Because you were everything I wasn't, she said. Calm. Kind. You didn't care what people thought. And I couldn't stand that. I wanted to tear it apart because I couldn't understand it. Her voice broke slightly at the end, and I realized I'd never seen her this vulnerable before. You were awful to me, I whispered. I know, she said. And I hate that. Every time I think about it, I wish I could take it back. There was something in her eyes then, remorse, yes, but also fear. Like she expected me to walk away. Instead, I reached for her hand. Her fingers hesitated before curling around mine. Warm. Familiar. Unmistakably right. It doesn't erase what you did, I said. But, people change. I can see you're trying. She looked at me like she couldn't believe I was real. Why are you being so kind to me after everything? Because, I said quietly, I think I'm starting to see the real you. And I don't hate her. She exhaled, almost in relief, and for a moment, everything between us felt suspended, fragile but alive. Then she whispered, I don't want this to be a mistake again. I didn't answer right away. The city stretched out below us, the world moving on while we sat still, caught between the past and something dangerously close to love. Finally, I said, then stop running from it. And when she smiled, that soft, trembling smile, I knew there was no going back. It's strange how someone can rewrite the way you see them, how every memory can shift once you start noticing the good instead of the pain. Riley used to be the name that made my stomach tighten with dread. Now it made my heart ache in a completely different way. We didn't label what we were. We just kept meeting, sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose. The more time we spent together, the more the world outside seemed to blur. One Saturday, we spent the afternoon wandering through the local art fair. Riley was different now, softer, quieter, like she was trying to prove she could exist without the mask she used to wear. She stopped at a booth selling hand-painted rings and picked one up. "This one suits you," she said, slipping a silver band with a tiny blue stone onto my finger. "You're just saying that," I said, but she shook her head. "No. It looks like you, calm, but not boring." I laughed, pretending her words didn't make me blush. "You're getting better at compliments." "Maybe I just finally mean them," she replied, her voice low. We walked along the rows of booths, eating cotton candy and teasing each other like we'd done this 100 times before. But there was always something unspoken between us, a kind of magnetic tension that neither of us wanted to name. Later that evening, when she dropped me home, I hesitated before opening the car door. "You've changed a lot, Riley." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You make me want to." Her words hung in the air between us, heavy, honest, almost fragile. I turned toward her, our faces only inches apart. "You can't fix everything," I said softly. "I know," she whispered. "But I can try to be better, for you." Something in her voice cracked the last bit of wall I'd been holding up. Before I could think twice, I reached out, brushing a raindrop off her cheek. Her breath hitched, and in that small, trembling moment, I realized what was happening. This wasn't about guilt anymore. It wasn't even about the past. It was about the present, the way she looked at me now, like I was something sacred. "Riley," I said quietly, "this scares me." "Me too," she admitted, her eyes soft. "But maybe that's how you know it's real." The rain started to fall harder, tapping against the windshield. Neither of us moved. For a long time, we just sat there, caught in the silence between thunder and heartbeat. Then she smiled faintly. "So, can I see you again tomorrow?" I nodded, trying not to smile too widely. "Yeah. Tomorrow." And when I stepped out into the rain, my heart was lighter than it had been in years. Weeks turned into months, and Riley became a constant in my life, in the small, quiet ways that mattered. She'd text me good morning before I even opened my eyes. She'd show up at the bookstore on my lunch breaks, pretending to browse until I caught her. Sometimes, she'd just sit across from me, saying nothing, smiling like she still couldn't believe I was real. It was the kind of closeness that built slowly, almost accidentally, until one day I realized I couldn't imagine my life without her. But not everyone understood. When my best friend, Mia, found out, she looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Riley Carter," she'd said, disbelief etched into every syllable. "The same Riley who made you cry in junior year? You can't be serious." "She's not that person anymore," I said, even though part of me still wondered if I was right. Mia sighed. "People don't just change overnight, you know." "I know," I whispered. "But she's trying. And I see her trying every day." Still, her words lingered. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying every cruel thing Riley had ever said to me, every moment of humiliation she'd caused, and how easily she could break me again if this went wrong. The next evening, I told her everything. We were sitting in her living room, the air thick with the scent of her jasmine candle. "People think I'm crazy for trusting you," I said quietly. "Sometimes I think they might be right." Riley didn't get defensive. She just looked at me, her eyes steady. "I get it. I'd probably think the same thing if I were you." "Then why are you here?" I asked. "Because you make me feel like I can be someone better," she said. "Not because you forgive me, but because you see me. No one ever did before you." Her words hit deep. I reached for her hand, and for a long time, we just sat there, her thumb brushing gentle circles over my skin, my heart trying to find its rhythm again. I'm scared, Riley, I admitted. Of falling too hard. Of being wrong about you. Her voice was barely a whisper. Then let me be someone worth the risk. Something inside me gave way, not out of weakness, but because holding back had become impossible. When I looked into her eyes, I saw every version of her, the cruel girl she'd been, the broken girl she hid, and the woman she was becoming. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't falling anymore. I'd already fallen. It was late autumn when everything came to a head. The air was crisp, the trees thinning into skeletons against the orange sky, and something inside me felt like it was shifting with the season. Riley and I had been closer than ever, but beneath the warmth of it all, there was still an edge of fear. The kind that whispered that maybe love wasn't enough to erase the past. That evening, we met by the lake, the same place where it all started months ago. The water shimmered under the fading light, calm and endless. Riley was already there, leaning against her car, her jacket zipped up, her hair blowing in the wind. For a moment, I just watched her. She looked peaceful, like someone who'd finally stopped running from herself. You still come here, I said as I approached. She smiled softly. Guess I like remembering where I stopped pretending. We sat on the hood together, watching the sun dip lower. Neither of us spoke for a while. It wasn't awkward anymore, just quiet, steady, safe. After a while, she turned to me. You know, she said, I used to think love was control. That if people feared you, they couldn't hurt you. But then you came along, and I realized love isn't power. It's surrender. It's letting someone see the parts you hate about yourself and hoping they don't walk away. Her voice trembled a little, but her eyes never left mine. Riley, I whispered. I don't expect you to forget who I was, she said. But I want you to see who I am now, who I'm trying to be. For you. With you. I didn't answer right away. The wind carried the sound of the water, and for a long time, that was enough. Then I reached for her hand, threading my fingers through hers. I see you, I said softly. The real you. And I think I've been seeing you for a while now. Her breath caught, and she smiled, a small, honest smile that reached her eyes. We didn't kiss like before, not out of desperation or confusion. This time, it was quiet. Certain. It wasn't about the past we'd survived, it was about the future we were finally brave enough to imagine. When we finally pulled apart, the sky had turned deep blue. She rested her forehead against mine and whispered, you know, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad I was wrong about you. I laughed softly. You were wrong about a lot of things. She grinned. Yeah. Especially about thinking I could ever stop wanting you. We stayed there long after the stars came out, wrapped in the kind of silence that doesn't need words. The lake reflected our shapes, two people who shouldn't have worked, who somehow did. And for the first time in years, I wasn't haunted by the girl who used to bully me. I was in love with the woman she'd become.